gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The show starts in 3, 2, 1, go.
What is going on, CaneSport? It is Izubee Charles, and good morning to you all. It is May 5th, 2023, or Cinco de Mayo, so happy Cinco de Mayo to everyone out there. And I would like to thank everyone for joining us on this episode of Good Morning CaneSport. Today, I'm joined by Steven Wagner as we break down the news of the day. Steven, Cinco de Mayo today. Any plans, any big things you're doing throughout the day?
Yeah, I feel like I've got to go back to my Texas roots and find a little bit of Tex-Mex out here. You know, the Cuban food's fantastic, but I'm not going to lie, very disappointed by the Tex-Mex scene. Although, I mean, I guess being in South Florida, that's really what you probably wouldn't expect to find a lot of that.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm going to try to find me some tequila after we finish up working throughout the day and kick back and relax a bit after all these stories we've been working on so far.
Drinking starts at 5 a.m., man. Come on.
I wish pour a little tequila in my coffee to kickstart the day, but no. First up on, your Miami Hurricanes morning, this news, big weekend for Miami that started kind of this morning and, earlier this week. A lot of prospects, a lot of JUCO prospects, a lot of transfer portal prospects are coming through and visiting Miami. And I want to start off with this remarkable story. A JUCO wide receiver named Shamar Kirk. When Matt told me about this story, I was kind of like, wait a minute, this kid did what? Kind of crazy. So obviously went the JUCO route. High school wasn't the biggest recruit coming out of high school. Worked at a Nissan factory as a security guard for 2 years with the overnight shift. I heard that. I was like, dude, that is the graveyard shift. That is crazy. Just watching, college football, saying, hey, I could do this. Goes the JUCO route, becomes a good prospect, and now is a prospect that Miami really, really likes. So that is a really, really cool story that I've heard or that I read of Shamar Kirk. I want to ask you, Steven, have you ever heard of anything like this? Some guy not playing football for 2 years, work at a Nissan factory, and then now he's kind of a prized possession for Power 5 programs.
This is kind of one of those stories. I mean, it's almost like it's something that you'd make a documentary about. Seriously, I mean, like it's something that you would see on Last Chance U. This guy who's literally could not be further removed from football, but then all of a sudden, you understand that he has this unbelievable talent that coaches really want, and certainly Miami is one of those programs. I mean, he's clearly a talented guy. He's starting to draw serious interest from different schools. Miami's going to be one of them. And now all of a sudden he has an actual chance to go out there and play for the Hurricanes. And this is a guy where you understand, or you kind of look at what he's done at the junior college level, coming to Miami, getting a Power 5 offer in general. That's not something that's given to him. This is something that more he's earned. I definitely think he's worthy and capable of playing at the Power 5 level. And we're going to see how this weekend's visit goes.
Yeah, well, once I read that story, I was kind of like, wow, this is a type of guy that you want on your team, a hardworking guy, a guy that never gives up, persistent, and is all those things you want in a gritty guy, a guy that's going to, give that extra inch because, he's really coming from, nothing, working, like I said, at a Nissan factory for 2 years and now having a chance to be a Power 5 athlete. So make sure to check that story out on him. Also, we have a few other stories on the guys visiting this week, including Twan Malone out of Ole Miss, Larry Nixon III out of North Texas. Steven, I just want to get your thoughts on a few of those guys that are visiting this weekend and really how big of a weekend this is for Miami that are trying to lure these guys out of the transfer portal.
Well, so far, this is definitely the biggest transfer portal weekend that the Hurricanes have had. Right now, if we're being honest, and me and Matt and Gary talked about this on the show the other day, I don't think the pickings in the transfer portal right now are nearly as, I don't know. What's the opposite of slim pickings? Fat pickings? I guess the pickings in the transfer portal aren't nearly as fat as I thought they were going to be the second time around. Whenever we had that second transfer portal window open in mid to late April, I really thought that we were going to see, some maybe bigger names in the portal that could be snagged. But if we're being honest, it's kind of underwhelming. And Miami is in a position right now where they're kind of operating with a sense of urgency because they need guys, and these are the best guys who are there. I mean, this isn't like the NFL where you can just say, it's okay, we'll rebuild this season, and then, next year will be the year that we come in and get all of our draft picks. Absolutely not. Success breeds success in college football. Why do you think Alabama and Georgia and Ohio State have flat out dominated recruiting for the last decade? Because they've been the most dominant programs, and kids want to go play for the most dominant programs. If this was the case, then UMass would be, absolutely loaded by now. UMass would be getting ready for the number 1 overall pick. But that's not the way that this works. And so right now, Miami's in a position where they kind of have to go after these guys. I think that the guys that they're going after right now, I think they're depth pieces. I definitely think that they're all good enough to play at Miami, and they've clearly passed the evaluation test if the Hurricanes are going after them already. They've certainly been approved by Alonzo Highsmith and Mario Cristobal. They've been signed off on, and they're being brought to campus for a reason. I truly do not believe that Miami would bring a kid to campus that they straight up do not believe is good enough to play at this level. But I'm looking at the list of guys that they have, and I'm thinking to myself, man, I don't know if any one of these guys are these single-handed game wreckers who come in and absolutely dominate, like the kind of guy who can absolutely change your offense or your defense overnight. I'm seeing a lot of good rotational guys. I'm seeing guys who do add value. I'm seeing maybe a couple of guys who might be able to even fight for starting time. Malone is a former top 100 overall recruit. I believe he was the number 11 defensive lineman in his class, if I remember. And if he develops and if he takes a step forward, he could be a difference maker for Miami. He could be one of those starters. But I'm not seeing a ton of guys where I see, wow, he's going to visit Miami. I really can't believe that. Again, I can't state this enough. These guys are good enough to play for the Hurricanes. Absolutely 100%. But I do think that Miami's in kind of a weird predicament right now where their backs are against the wall. They've got these open roster spots and they're stuck there looking at them and going, man, we really need help here. I mean, defensive tackle is really what stands out to me the most. Miami did not recruit the defensive tackle position well in last year's recruiting class. They only took 1 defensive tackle. Their defensive tackle appeared to still be an issue during the spring. It's kind of been that one recurring weakness, the interior of the defensive line. It was an issue last season. It didn't get addressed in the 2023 high school recruiting class, and it didn't really look like it had taken or like that area had really been fixed or repaired or whatever you want to say in the spring. And so now Miami's going, man, we've got to do something there. That's the spot that we need. Same with linebacker, same with Larry Nixon coming in. I mean, Francisco Malagoa was a really, really good addition. I think we definitely saw that in the spring, and we definitely saw it like, yeah, this dude's going to be a difference maker come fall. But I think that's one of the reasons why they're turning to Larry Nixon is because they're going, man, we need help, and this is the best available option right now. And so we'll see how things shake out this weekend.
Yeah, I feel like this is a big weekend, especially for this second window, kind of having, this big wave of guys, on campus. I believe last year's second window in the transfer portal, Miami got Akeem Messidor, which we all know how that turned out pretty well. So hopefully Miami can find a guy or maybe 2 that, bring that same level of production as Akeem Messidor in the second transfer window. So just keep an eye on the site. If any breaking news comes up with any of these guys in the transfer portal, maybe a commitment, maybe not. We'll see what happens this weekend. So hopefully, Miami comes out with 1, 2, or maybe all 4 of these guys after this weekend. Plus, on the site, we have our breakdown of the top defensive group. Yesterday, we covered the top offensive group, and it may be a surprise to you. I haven't read the story yet on the top defensive group, but if I'm guessing, if it's a surprise, I might say D-line might be the top group on the defensive side of the ball. I know that's a position Miami's kind of struggling right now with injuries and kind of lack of depth. But I do feel like if Miami gets a full strength, obviously Leonard Taylor is a first-round talent. Akeem Messidor on the edge, I feel like, is a second or third-round guy, maybe. But first, if he has a great season next year, Jafari Harvey's coming back, a veteran guy on that line. And we all know about Ruben Bain, what he did in the spring. So If it was my guess, I would say the top group on the defensive side of the ball goes to the D line. Steven, what would your guess be? What would you say is the top group on that defensive side of the ball for the Hurricanes?
I definitely think it has to be D line. I mean, you kind of look at the rest of the roster. Linebacker, we've got a lot of question marks. Deep or corner, we haven't really seen a guy take, I'd say, that aggressive, commanding step forward. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of, I think there's a lot of good kind of middle ground guys. But I don't really see, a corner that's going to be able to go out there and flat out dominate. Safety, Cam Kinchins is obviously the headliner there, but what kind of concerns me about safety is I think they're top heavy. I don't, the overall lack of depth there does worry me, even though the Canes definitely do have good safety talent. And I think with Lance Guidry, they're going to take a step forward next year. I think Cam Kinchins is going to have a really, really good season. I think he's going to propel himself into having a chance to maybe be a first round draft pick or go early in the second round if things work out well for him. But defensive line, I'd say the defensive line is probably going to stand out a little bit to me, not on the interior though, but because of the edge rushers. We saw during the spring that's kind of the one area where it looks like Miami is really, really comfortable at and solid at on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, Ruben Bain was an absolute wrecking ball during the spring game. And we look up at the depth chart and we're like, man, we're not even sure if he's going to be able to start. Miami is just so loaded at the edge position. And I think the Hurricanes are I think this is going to be one of those things where you can't really have enough of them in college football, is having those edge rushers, having these guys that can rush the passer. Akeem Messidor, obviously, it was a huge difference maker last year. I think he'll be a difference maker again. So I think the Canes are in really, really good shape there. And so because of the edge rushers, I'm going to have to go with the defensive line. Interior of the defensive line definitely still needs some work, but edge rushers, we've got a surplus and you can't have enough of that.
Yeah, I feel like if Miami adds maybe one piece or two pieces on the defensive line, it becomes, one of the top, not only the ACC, but maybe arguably in the country if they can figure things out. Tons of talent across that whole defensive line. Additionally, this morning, we break down our top 50 post-spring players. Now we're at number 49 with Malik Curtis, defensive back from my hometown of Fort Myers, Florida. A guy that I really liked coming into University of Miami when I watched him play high school basketball at Bishop Verot. And I hope he takes that next step. A lot of guys last spring and last fall through fall camp really thought Malik Curtis was take that next step. Really didn't show, but hopefully, second year under Coach Adai, second year fully playing defensive back, he takes that next step. So make sure to check out the analysis on Malik Curtis, the number 49 player on our top 50 post-spring athletes. In recruiting news, Coach Derek Nicholson and the Miami Hurricane staff have been all across the country, recently focused in the DMV area where he made a stop in Norfolk, Virginia at Murray High School and offered four-star defensive back Kendall Daniels. Now with Kendall Daniels, 6'3", I believe 185, 190 pounds, two-way player, a really good quarterback, and an even better safety. I turned on his film. At first, I was thinking, okay, I'm going to see, it says quarterback / free safety. You're going to see him, throwing dimes, making plays on the offense side of the ball. First three highlights are him playing center field, intercepting passes left and right. I'm like, okay, I can see why I'm offered this guy. So make sure to check out that update on Kendall Daniels, a guy that Derek Nicholson really, really likes and Miami recently offered. Another offer Miami recently dished out was to the number one running back in the 2025 class, Harlem Berry. Steven, you spoke with Mr. Berry, the number one running back in the 2025 class. What were your thoughts on, that conversation with him? And just why do you think it was good for Miami to reach out to, obviously, the number one running back in that 2025 class so early?
I mean, let's start with the obvious. He's the number one running back in the 2025 class. We're talking about a top 20 prospect in 2025. Obviously, it's still early. These rankings are going to change a lot. But still, this is a guy with absolutely massive talent. Goes without saying that he's the number one overall recruit in the state of Louisiana as well. I think it was Jason Taylor that ended up actually extending the offer to him. And he said, yeah, they looked at my film and they just, kind of liked basically everything that I had to offer. And it was kind of a no-brainer for Miami staff to go ahead and for Harlan Berry. Now, the Canes are definitely going to have some stiff competition, especially in the SEC. He's open to learning more about the Canes, and he'd be willing to come down for a visit. And I think at this point, that's really what Miami has to do if they want to stay in contention. Is I think he has to get to campus this summer because LSU is the hometown team for him. And right now, the RPM has LSU as the very strong favorite. He spoke really highly of LSU. Being a Louisiana kid and growing up, I think like an hour and a half or something like that outside of Death Valley. The Tigers are very high up there early. Got a few SEC programs already on his tail. So I expect his offer list to keep growing at a very rapid pace, especially during the spring, whenever all these coaches get out to campus for these evaluation visits. I'd expect him to get a lot more offers, seeing that this is probably one of those things that I'm guessing a lot of coaches are going to want to do. And I know technically, they can offer these guys in person, but at least these coaches showing their face there and Harlem understanding, oh, hey, coach so-and-so from whatever school was at my high school today. That certainly holds a lot of weight with these kids in terms of understanding which programs are actually going to care about you enough to make the trip out to see you at your school. So I'd expect his offer list to keep growing substantially. But I think if Miami's going to want to stay in the hunt on this one, they're probably going to need to get him out for a visit this summer.
Yeah, definitely a name to watch out in the upcoming, months and next year. Harlan Berry, the guy of Louisiana. Hopefully, Coach Shannon Dawson and Lance Guidry's Louisiana ties can lure him to Coral Gables for a visit, which we all know is oh so important. And kind of to wrap up our recruit news this morning, 2026 offensive lineman Sam Greer out of Archbishop Hoban in Ohio recently got an offer from the University of Miami. His third offer. It's a pretty cool offer list if I was a prospect. So his first offer was from Ohio State. His second offer was from the University of Florida, and Miami was the third school to offer him. So obviously, programs across the country see this kid is talented, 6'8", 280 as a freshman, which kind of shocked me when I saw that. So he recently got an offer from the University of Miami and really wants to come down and take a visit to Miami, kind of see what the program's all about, learn more about it. I feel like that's big. My biggest takeaway from seeing all these younger guys get these offers. They're saying, "Hey, I want to come down to Miami. I want to learn about it. I want to see what the U is really about." Obviously, people know the brand, people know the Miami Hurricanes, but hey, now it's Mario Cristobal leading the ship, and they want to see what he's all about. Stephen, you spoke with a couple of 2026 guys. What would you say is your biggest takeaway from talking to all these younger guys, these freshmen and sophomores picking up offers from Miami?
I'd say it's that recruiting momentum definitely does matter with a lot of these kids. Whenever they see some of the top prospects in the 2023 class, 2024 class, saying that they have enough faith in Cristobal and the Hurricanes to go ahead and commit there, that this stuff really does matter. I mean, right now, effectively, Mario is just recruiting on the promise of being able to develop non-offensive linemen. Obviously, he had plenty of draft picks whenever he was at Oregon, but development has been the big problem that Miami has had really since, I'm trying to think back, since probably Larry Coker, for being honest. That's been the one big issue that has constantly been recurring. And so right now, Cristobal is just having to say, I can develop you. You just have to give me a chance. And right now, a lot of guys are willing to say, yeah, I will give you that chance. In the 2024 class, I know it's still early on. We've only got, I think, 7 commitments or something like that. But I think Chance Robinson so far is probably the biggest guy to say, yeah, okay, I'll give you the chance to go ahead and develop me. And whenever these 2026 kids are seeing these top prospects like a Samson Okanola, like a Francis Malagoa, say, yeah, I know that Miami as a program has had problems developing players, but I have enough faith in Cristobal to get this thing turned around. I think that really does weigh heavily with these younger, more impressionable kids. I think that a program like Miami, because of the glitz and the glamour and really the value of the Hurricane brand. The U brand is so much infinitely bigger than the school itself. I mean, we've got a small little private school in Coral Gables, but everybody knows about the U. That matters to these kids. They want to play for that big brand. They love that idea of playing for a program that gets its own 30 for 30 series on ESPN. They love the idea of the glitz and the glamour and the fame and the flash of Miami and all of the national championships and the prestige of the school and all of that stuff. That really does matter to them. And so that's going to get the Hurricanes' foot in the door. But I think what really matters a lot more with these kids is being able to see the guys a couple of classes ahead of them go, yeah, I've got enough faith in the Hurricanes to develop me. I've got enough faith in that program to turn it around. And I'm a big enough believer in Cristobal to go ahead and want to commit.
Yeah, I think you said that perfectly. Just Miami building off that momentum from the 2023 class, hopefully the 2024 class, and carrying on is going to be huge. And the biggest thing these young guys are looking for. And to wrap it up, last night our guy Coach L was inducted to the University of Miami Sports Hall of Fame. So make sure to check that out on the site. Coach L, probably not watching this, but if you end up watching CaneSport Good Morning Show, congratulations from all of us that watch and have covered you at the University of Miami throughout the years. And that will wrap it up for our Cinco de Mayo episode of Good Morning CaneSport. For Stephen Wagner, I'm Izubee Charles, and hope you guys enjoy as much tequila as you can today. Have a great day.